The fire crackled, sending sparks into the night sky, creating a mesmerizing dance of light and shadow. Shadows danced on the faces of those gathered around, their expressions a mix of anticipation and curiosity. We sat, a group of wide-eyed children, eager to hear Uncle Nam's tales, our hearts pounding with excitement and a hint of fear. He was a man of few words, our uncle, but his silence spoke volumes and his presence commanded respect. But when he spoke, everyone listened, hanging on to every word as if it were a precious gem. Tonight, his story was about ghosts, real ghosts. The kind that sent shivers down your spine and made you question the reality of the world around you. He had seen them with his own eyes, he claimed, and the haunted look in his eyes made us believe him. Uncle Nam began his tale in our quiet village, a place where everyone knew each other and secrets were hard to keep. He spoke of Grandpa Sam, the village elder, a man shrouded in mystery, whose life was a tapestry of untold stories and hidden truths. Grandpa Sam lived alone at the edge of a sprawling forest, a place that seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to happen. The forest was ancient, a place of whispers and shadows, where sunlight struggled to penetrate, and the air was thick with the scent of moss and decay. We all knew of the forest, felt its presence like a watchful entity, always there, always observing. Uncle Nam, as a boy, was drawn to Grandpa Sam's stories, tales that seemed to come alive with every word. He was especially captivated by the whispers of human skulls hidden deep within the forest, skulls that seemed to hold the secrets of the past, skulls that glowed and moved, whispering tales of the forgotten, tales that sent chills down your spine. These stories both fascinated and terrified him, filling his dreams with images of glowing skulls and whispering shadows. One day, curiosity overwhelming him, he decided to follow Grandpa Sam on one of his frequent journeys into the forest, a decision that would change his life forever. Our village was small, a cluster of houses surrounded by rice paddies. The paddies stretched out like a green sea, their waves rustling gently in the breeze. Each house was a testament to the simplicity and resilience of our way of life, built with care and love. Beyond the paddies lay the forest. It was a constant presence, a dark wall against the bright sky. The forest was dense and mysterious, its secrets hidden beneath a canopy of ancient trees. It was both a guardian and a threat, a place of beauty and danger. We children were warned never to go near it. Too many spirits, the elders would say, shaking their heads. They spoke of the forest with a mix of reverence and fear, their voices hushed, as if the trees themselves were listening. The stories they told were enough to keep us at bay, our curiosity tempered by caution. Grandpa Sam's house stood at the very edge of the village. It was the last house before the forest began, a solitary sentinel watching over the boundary between the known and the unknown. It was a small wooden hut, perched precariously on stilts. The stilts lifted it above the ground, as if trying to escape the creeping tendrils of the forest. The house seemed to teeter on the edge of two worlds, caught between the safety of the village and the wildness of the woods. The wood was dark and weathered, as if the forest itself was trying to reclaim it. The walls bore the marks of time and nature, each crack and crevice telling a story of endurance and survival. Uncle Nam told us how, as a boy, he would often sneak over to Grandpa Sam's house. The thrill of adventure and the promise of stories drew him like a moth to a flame. He would sit on the rickety steps, listening to the old man's stories. The steps creaked under his weight, a symphony of age and use as he leaned in closer to catch every word. The stories were always about the forest. They were tales of wonder and terror, of creatures that lurked in the shadows and spirits that danced in the moonlight. Grandpa Sam would speak of strange creatures and ancient spirits. His voice would drop to a whisper as he described the eerie glow of the will-o'-the-wisps and the mournful cries of the forest spirits. He told of lost souls and forgotten gods. These were beings that roamed the forest, their presence felt but rarely seen, their stories passed down through generations. Uncle Nam would listen, his heart pounding in his chest. Each story was a journey into the unknown, a glimpse into a world that was both fascinating and frightening. He was both terrified and exhilarated by the old man's tales. The fear was a thrill, a rush of adrenaline that made the stories come alive in his mind, and though he was scared, he couldn't wait to hear more. One day, Grandpa Sam began talking about the skulls. He described them in hushed tones, his voice barely a whisper. He said they were the remnants of ancient warriors, their spirits still trapped within the bone. He claimed these skulls glowed with an eerie light, and whispered secrets to those who dared to listen. Uncle Nam was captivated. He had to see these skulls for himself. He had to hear their whispers. He knew it was foolish, dangerous even, but the allure of the unknown was too strong to resist. So, one night under the cloak of darkness, Uncle Nam followed Grandpa Sam. He watched as the old man disappeared into the forest. Then, taking a deep breath, Uncle Nam followed. The forest was alive with sounds. Insects buzzed and chirped. Unknown creatures rustled in the undergrowth. The air was thick and heavy, filled with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Uncle Nam pushed forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He could see Grandpa Sam ahead of him, his frail figure illuminated by the sliver of moonlight that pierced the canopy. The deeper they went, the darker it became. The trees pressed in on them, their branches intertwining overhead to form a suffocating tunnel. Uncle Nam stumbled over gnarled roots and pushed aside thick vines. He could feel the forest closing in on him, trying to swallow him whole. Fear gnawed at his insides, but he dared not turn back. The air grew colder. A strange mist began to rise from the forest floor, swirling around Uncle Nam's ankles. He could hear whispers now, faint and indistinct, carried on the wind. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. He couldn't make out the words, but the voices sent shivers down his spine. Then, he saw them. Faint lights like fireflies bobbing in the distance. As they got closer, he realized what they were. Skulls. Dozens of them scattered across the forest floor. They glowed with an eerie internal light, casting flickering shadows on the surrounding trees. And they were whispering. Their voices were soft, like the rustling of leaves, but filled with an ancient sorrow that chilled Uncle Nam to the bone. Section 6. The Rolling Heads. Suddenly the whispers stopped. The skull's lights flared brightly, illuminating the clearing in a sickly yellow glow. Then they began to move. They rolled on the ground, bouncing off tree trunks and each other, their hollow sockets seeming to follow Uncle Nam and Grandpa Sam. He watched in horror as one skull rolled towards his feet, coming to a stop just inches from his toes. He looked up at Grandpa Sam, his eyes wide with terror. But the old man seemed unfazed. He simply stood there watching the spectacle with a strange, serene smile on his face. It was as if he had expected this, as if it were all part of some plan. Section 7. Frozen with fear. Uncle Nam wanted to scream, to run, but he couldn't move. He was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear. The skulls continued to roll and bounce, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. They circled him and Grandpa Sam, a macabre dance of the dead. He closed his eyes, unable to bear the sight any longer. He doesn't know how long they stayed there. Time seemed to stand still. The air grew thick with the smell of decay. The whispers echoed in his ears, burrowing into his brain. He felt a presence surrounding him, cold and ancient, watching him with unseen eyes. Section 8. A Night of Whispers. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The lights faded. The whispers died down. When Uncle Nam finally dared to open his eyes, the clearing was empty. The skulls were gone. Only the faint glow of moonlight remained, filtering through the trees. Grandpa Sam was gone too. Uncle Nam was alone in the darkness, surrounded by the whispering trees. He stumbled back the way he came, his mind reeling. He didn't stop running until he reached the edge of the forest. He didn't look back, not once. He ran until he reached the safety of his home, collapsing on his bed, his body trembling. Section 9. Unanswered Questions. Uncle Nam's voice dropped to a whisper as he finished his tale. His eyes darted around the room, as if the shadows themselves held the secrets he had just revealed. He never went back to the forest, not after that night. The memory of what he encountered there was too much to bear, a haunting presence that followed him everywhere. He never spoke of what he had seen, not until now. The weight of his silence had been a burden, one that he finally chose to share with us. His story hung in the air, heavy and unsettling. Each word seemed to linger, wrapping around us like the smoke that filled the room. We children sat in stunned silence, our eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. The firelight danced on our faces, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move with a life of their own. What were the skulls trying to say? Their hollow eyes seemed to follow us, whispering secrets that we could almost hear, but never quite understand. What did Grandpa Sam know? His knowing expression hinted at stories untold, mysteries that he had perhaps encountered in his own youth. Was it all real, or just a figment of a young boy's imagination? The line between reality and fantasy blurred, leaving us questioning everything we thought we knew. These questions hung in the air long after Uncle Nam's voice had faded. The echoes of his tale seemed to linger, a haunting melody that played in the back of our minds. They were questions that would haunt our dreams for many nights to come. Each night, as we lay in bed, the images from his story would replay in our minds, refusing to let us rest. The forest, with its secrets and whispers, remained a constant presence in our lives. Its mysteries seemed to call out to us, daring us to uncover the truths hidden within its depths. A reminder that some things are best left undisturbed. The forest path, overgrown and forgotten, stood as a testament to the secrets that should remain